Well, the election has shown Tuesday, with the results coming in, that Illinois is somewhat schizophrenic right now. Since we had Republican governors for 26 years through George Ryan, we were somewhat of a middle-of-the-road state because usually it was moderate governors in some way if they were Republican, but then we have had 8 years of Democratic governors with Rod Blagojevich. And nationally, Illinois has been moving more towards the Democratic column, particularly in presidential politics. We are, of course, the home of Barack Obama. But in the race that just happened Tuesday, in the midst of the Republican sweep over much of the country, that was shown in our U.S. Senate race as Barack Obama's former seat, held for a little while by Roland Burris, now goes to Mark Kirk, who has been a congressman from north suburbs of Chicago. Republican side, still, it was a close race with Alexei Giannoulias, the Democratic state treasurer, young guy, friend of Obama, but flawed in ways that made it very difficult for him to win. The fact that his claim to fame at age 34 and in his first term as state treasurer was that he had come out of banking in his family bank was clouded, to say the least, by the fact that that bank failed and was taken over by a government agency early in the campaign. The fact that that bank made some loans to mob-related figures certainly played into all those negative ads against him. The fact that he ran the treasurer's office had its pitfalls as well, just because, in particular, one fund within the Bright Start College program lost about $150 million in investments. About half of that was gained back through action of the treasurer, but that's still a $70+ million loss. And boy, in a campaign, if you have a liability like that, your opponent will just use it and use it. So Mark Kirk won with his 20 years of Naval Reserves experience. Of course, that was tempered by the fact that he had misstated and, in fact, wrongly stated some of his past accomplishments in the military and overstated them. With the Republican wave, that was able to put him over the top. Now, governor, a lot of Democratic governors lost across the country on Tuesday. Governor Pat Quinn was really looking like a loser in many ways with the missteps he has made since taking over for the disgraced Rod Blagojevich. A lot of people thought that this was a great opportunity for Republicans to show their muscle, take the state back, and really the governor's office is the most important office in the day-to-day lives of the citizens, certainly in Springfield, but far beyond that as well. The state just runs so many programs that touch our lives, including the roads and children family services, so many services. But Bill Brady was not your typical Illinois Republican statewide winner in that. He's a very conservative politician. He believes in concealed carry of firearms. Interesting, Illinois is only one of 2 states that now doesn't have it, so the world has moved in that direction. But Pat Quinn was against it. Chicago was a holdout until the Supreme Court knocked it down of banning, they didn't even allow home ownership of guns until very recently because of a Supreme Court decision. So Brady was much more conservative than your typical winning Republican in Illinois. And and he was also very pro-life, against abortion, even in case of rape or incest. And it has long been considered that conservative or moderate women, perhaps who live in the suburbs, soccer moms, hockey moms, if this were Alaska, may not like their Republicans to be that conservative, even if they have a Republican bent. So Pat Quinn was trying to take advantage of the Democratic base that has been shown nationally, in national elections in Illinois in recent years, trying to portray Brady as too conservative and extreme. Interestingly, with the $13 billion or more state budget deficit, budget has dominated, and Quinn has had the difficult task in this year of Tea Parties and in this year of anti-tax fervor of saying we need an income tax increase. He has said that since pretty much the day he became governor in 2009. Brady has been strongly opposed to a tax increase, saying we need to bring the 800,000 jobs back that Illinois has lost in the last decade. Didn't exactly explain how that would happen, but made it very clear he does not want to raise taxes. Lots of people, certainly in the social service arena, thought it's impossible for Brady to accomplish his goals without some kind of tax increase. But Brady basically wasn't budging on that, which made his numbers, to many outside analysts, not necessarily add up. And Pat Quinn kept saying that he was being realistic and you have to do the hard work. And in our past in Illinois, sometimes people who actually advocate a tax increase are the ones who win. Jim Edgar in 1990 ran against Neil Hartigan for governor. Hartigan was the Democrat. Edgar wanted to make permanent a 0.5 percentage point increase in the state income tax. Edgar did, the Republican. Hartigan did not. And Edgar ended up winning because he convinced people that that was necessary. So Quinn was banking on the idea that people would understand the budget reality, that we need more money. On the other hand, Quinn made a number of missteps in the year and a half he's been governor, the early release of prisoners, the pay raises to some of his senior staff. Brady pounced on those things, talked about the mismanagement, and seemed for a long time to be dominating the race, and the polls generally showed Brady ahead pretty much the entire time that these two have been the nominees. But ultimately, I think the social issues had their effect in the end, and Quinn hanging in there and, coming back to the Democratic base. And also, despite the fact that, he was accused of fudging details by Brady, Quinn, in comparison to his predecessor, Rod Blagojevich, if he made missteps in office, still seems like he's not in it for the money, and I think he has a basic honesty. He says that, but I think people also believe that. And yet, Brady had a soft touch as well. He didn't come off as a fire-breathing conservative. He just said we don't want taxes, but he really stayed away from the social issues. So what we have is, in the midst of a Republican wave washing across America, we have this governor's race that may be decided today, may be decided in a week or two, or who knows how long it will last. But in January, one of these two men will be inaugurated our next governor for the next 4 years. And interestingly, they will preside over a legislature that is a little less Democratic, but still in Democratic hands in both houses. So Republicans had gains, particularly downstate. And in Congress, Republicans clearly had gains in Illinois, including in central Illinois, of course, the 17th congressional district, long held by Democrats. Phil Hare was defeated by Bobby Schilling of Kelowna, who enjoyed talking to the Tea Party, but also owns a pizza restaurant, is a business person, and basically said, I want to go to Washington and not raise taxes. So we have seen the effects of the Republican wave, but where Illinois ultimately lies remains to be seen, and who runs it as governor also remains to be seen.